Hi, folks. This is Jesse Ivy, and we're back again on the Owner Terms Land Network. And today we, with my co-host here, Victoria Berg, who is also a fellow land investor, and she's part of the Owner Terms Land Network as well. So we're going to be talking about how the coronavirus is going to affect the current real estate market. And we will be talking about that right after this. We'll be right back. Okay, well, welcome back. Now I have Victoria Berg, as you can see over there. She is joining me, and we're going to be talking today about how the coronavirus will be affecting the real estate market. And Victoria, you have been in the land investing industry for quite a few years now. So why don't you start here? I mean, do you remember when you first got into the land investing business? How long ago was that?
Oh boy. I would say back in 2008 or so was when I first started. And what we're seeing today reminds me a lot of some of those times, real uncertainty, not knowing what the future will hold. Right. I think that I could see land taking a similar path as it did back then. What I do remember is that it seemed that many assets were dropping in value. However, land, they only make so much of it.
It's true.
And land is just one of those assets that, especially bare land, that they stopped making it. So buying.
So let me ask you a question. So let's just break this down a little bit and jump right into it. How do you see the coronavirus affecting, let's just start with the housing market. How do you see it affecting the housing market? Because we know back in 2008 with the mortgage industry, and the bottom fell out of it, and basically the housing market just tanked. So this time around with the coronavirus, which is quite different than the original mortgage problems back in 2008, how do you see housing affected by this? Do you think this is going to have a significant effect on the housing market?
Yes, Jesse, I do. I can't see how you could have the massive layoffs and businesses that are unable to operate right now with the coronavirus and not see that play out into residential real estate. I just don't see how that.
So you see this, you see the market really hurting eventually. Do you think it's gonna, do you think prices are gonna drop right away, or do you think it's gonna take a little bit of time?
I think it will take some time. I mean, much of what I've read and much of the research I've done has led me to feel that we probably won't see the full repercussions of this really start up until six months, 12 months from now. I think we'll start to see some real drops in the real estate market for several reasons. One would be that banks right now are going to be hanging on to their cash. They're not going to be as inclined to want to loan to people to buy residential real estate, knowing that there could be a massive wave of foreclosures.
Yeah, I could see that too. I could see there being a bunch of foreclosures because the banks are only going to for so long forgive you for your loan or let you modify your loan a little bit, but eventually they're just going to start foreclosing on people. At least that's how.
Absolutely. And then there's all the loan forbearance that's going on right now. But so 12 months from now, after that, when people have to start paying again, it's going to be really interesting to see how the mortgage the mortgages and banks and how that whole industry will be able to handle all of this forgiveness that they've been doing. Yeah, and then on top of all of that, you have the fact that so many people are unemployed. So now you have banks not wanting to extend home equity lines of credit. They're not going to want to. They're going to be less inclined to loan for residential real estate, but then they're also tightening restrictions on what's required. I've read that many banks are requiring 20% down, and then you have to have above a 700 credit score. So that's a game changer. And then on top of that, there's so many unemployed now that being able to track your work history is going to be really difficult. So if you're unemployed, I don't think you'll qualify.
So how do you see this affecting, like if you were a realtor and that's what you did as a job, that was your career, how do you see this affecting somebody who's just a realtor? Do you think this is going to drastically affect them?
Yes. In fact, I have several realtor friends that they're already preparing for basically another 2008 type situation. And with that, they're really starting to research foreclosure process and short sales and all of that. So they're prepared. However, I would go to say that they're probably a small percentage of realtors. I think that there's so many realtors right now that we could also see a huge fallout. If homes aren't selling, realtors aren't making money, and there's less jobs.
Right. No kidding. How do you see this affecting the commercial real estate market, considering, you have to look at it with so many businesses hurting and they're closed now. And you have to know that some of these businesses most likely will not reopen. So how do you see this shaking out in the commercial real estate industry?
Well, Jesse, again, I think that this will have devastating effects on the commercial real estate market. I just local where I live, looking around at many of the businesses, people are struggling. Business owners are struggling. There's so much uncertainty, and yes, they were given the Paycheck Protection Program. Some were given, many do not or were not able to qualify, especially small town home businesses, or local businesses, I should say. So some were able to qualify, some were not. But even if you were able to qualify, you really didn't get a lot that would go towards your lease. I know we own a business as well outside of the real estate we do. And I started to go down that road, Paycheck Protection Program, trying to see what we could do for our business. And, I was really uncomfortable with both the fact that our business was going to have to take on a loan and hope that it would be forgiven. You have to wait up to 60 days after you get the loan to see if it will be forgiven. Mm-hmm. And even at that, you only get 2 months worth of help. Right. And only a small percentage of that can be allocated towards your rent. So I think about that for many businesses around here, and they're just not going to make it. They're not going to be able to pay their rent. And that is going to fall on those leaseholders. And we're just going to see, I think,
these landlords are not going to get their rent paid.
Right. So,
there's no other way to put it.
No. And so businesses won't be able to pay their leases. Landlords then, again, won't be able to pay for their mortgages, and we could see a huge fallout from commercial real estate.
Well, let me ask you this. With land, and since we both are land investors and in the land business, how do you think there's going to be land buying opportunities because of what's going on with the pandemic?
Again, yes, I 100% think there will be. I think that people will be needing cash, needing money, having bills to pay, and much like the rest of the real estate market, I think that people will be cutting costs to try to compete for buyers. And they'll do whatever they need to do to get cash, especially as this plays out. I mean, we really don't know how long this coronavirus thing could go on.
How honestly,
You
just,
know?
I mean, you're somebody that we can actually see and talk to where the coronavirus, this has affected your business. What businesses do you see that this will most affect?
Hospitality and entertainment. Both industries are going to be heavily impacted. We own a business that runs around entertainment and large events
Large
and
crowds and stuff.
absolutely. And it's always been pretty predictable, stable business, reliable. It's a need for people. I never thought this would happen to our business.
Right.
And, I try to be a realist. I could see this going on for 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
And,
So
the same goes for hospitality. I mean, if you're a caterer, if you own a hotel, if I mean, the list goes on and on.
yeah,
Wedding
like a restaurant. Restaurants are big. I mean, that's one of the biggest industries that have been hit. I mean, not everybody too, not everybody can afford to put plexiglass all through their restaurant for their booths, and then social distance. A lot of these restaurants are going to be so impacted because what if you can only fill your restaurant half full? How can you keep the doors open?
Exactly. And how are you still going to turn a profit?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's my fear. I look at these local business owners, some of who we know, and I'm fearful for them. If you can only have your restaurant at, let's say, 50% capacity because you have to social distance tables, and then you also have to rearrange everything, pay to remodel, and then have your staff there. I've read many restaurants, their bottom line, their actual profit that they pull from the restaurant is somewhere between like 10 and 15%. So if you're at 50% capacity, they're not making money.
No, I don't think they are either. Yeah.
And how long can you go on like that? And what do you want to put yourself into? And
let me ask you this, and a final thought here. We're in the land investing business. There's other land companies that do the same thing we do. There are people watching this video who are wondering what they could do. If you had any advice for somebody thinking about maybe buying their first piece of land, or why they should buy their first piece of land, what would you tell them, to somebody watching this video, about why you think it's a good idea to acquire land and what it can do for you?
Oh, there are so many reasons to acquire land. But I would say, starting out, if things are tight and you don't have a lot of cash, but you're trying to invest, don't leave your money invested in the dollar. If you just have it sitting there as cash, that's what you're doing. You're investing in the dollar. I don't think that's a good long-term thing to do, and feel free to read up on why. But instead, I would look towards investing in a real tangible asset, something you can go visit. You can take your family out to it, especially like a nice rural piece of land. That's how we started. I think back years ago, we'd go out and find these really cool properties, take the family out, and it's fun. And, it gives you something to do on the weekends, all the while your money's sitting in something they stopped making. And after this recession, after everything passes, and eventually it will, you have a real asset. And, if things inflate, so will your asset.
There you go. Yeah.
Land is the way to go. You can touch it, feel it, it's real.
Yep. Nope. That's great. Well, Victoria, another thing folks don't know is that Victoria is actually my daughter. So, but she's been in the business. She learned at daddy's knee, basically. So she's been in the business a long time. She's been in this business and she's done very well. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone that is watching this video. Thanks for watching. And Victoria, thank you for joining us on the show today. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. We will be back again very soon with another video for you to watch. And this is Jesse and Victoria signing off from the Owner Terms Land Network.